Yo, what is good, everybody? I hope you all had a fantastic trading day. We got PCE numbers tomorrow in the morning before market opens, so that's what we're going to be talking about, where the market can go based off of that. As you can see, I got my camera fixed as well. Yeah, we're just going to get into the video. Make sure to show the video some love, go to like and subscribe, and let's get into it. So, to start off, of course, we're going to start off with oil use. Um, so oil, we were looking at a breakout today, and we kind of got that, but it wasn't as big as I was looking for. But, oil, it's not really doing much, like structure wise. It's just kind of consolidating, which is inevitably gearing up for a breakout, because the longer you consolidate for it, the bigger the breakout's gonna happen. So it's kind of like in a triangle, as you can see, but there's also this double top, so it might be a rising triangle. If it's a rising triangle, rising triangles, once you break out at the top, it literally goes parabolic. So if this is a rising triangle, I would be watching for a break of this double top to go long for you'll see it after rising wedges. You'll see it goes straight up, and then it starts to do like this kind of topping thing. You'll know when it starts to slow down, but be watching for that. If this is a rising triangle, watch for that double top breach at around 82.60. So other than that, it's sitting on these support trend lines, but it's very messy, as you can see. So kind of just waiting. I'd give it a few more days for it to really do something, give us some direction. So on to natural gas. Natural gas, again, somehow managing to continue falling. Um, Broke through like 30 supports today. I guess it did bounce back up, so that's something to note, kinda. But yeah, you can see you had this wedge here, and it just one bounce fall through, barely any bouncing fell through, but it did recover. And this white line here is the big thing I'm watching right now, because this is that big trend line I might have talked about in yesterday's video. I honestly forget, but this is a trend line I've been watching for quite a while here. This white line right here, and that's what we're kind of sitting around right now. I'm gonna take these lines off so we can kind of see it a little better. Yeah. So we wicked through it, bounced back above, but now it just, yeah, it's a tricky spot here. Normally we would bounce, but this is kind of the first time I've seen something just fall endlessly, like invalidating all these patterns, invalidating these divergences, on something so consistent as such as a commodity. So it's really interesting because um, it's kind of unlike anything I've really ever seen before, except maybe oil during the pandemic when it went negative. But still, this is really quite the move here. The fundamentals, it isn't adding up. I'm looking for this bounce, but it's taking its time. So I would like to see some sort of bottoming process. It has a really good chance of doing this here, because it has all these descending supports forming, and are intact as well as that big trend line. But I would like to see, if you know what I'm talking about, Elliott wave, 5 waves up, and then 3 down, and then a start of another 5 up. So we can see that impulsive structure starting to form. Other than that, it's unbelievable. This is another number that it might want to get to, 2.62, just as a fib level. Then get your wave 4, and then maybe your wave 5, which I talked about in yesterday's video. If you want to go look at that, where I was explaining this, after this, once this downwards move finishes, it's going to go crazy. But it's really taking its time. It's shaking a lot of people out. Shorts are making a ton of money on this thing, but it's only a matter of time. Nothing goes down forever, nothing goes up forever. US dollar here. So this is forming divergences, or it has divergences. So kind of interesting here. It's riding on this trend line. So what I would be thinking in this scenario is I would be bullish until this trend line breaks. So it's likely to reverse. It doesn't have to, but it's very likely that it does. So I would be bullish unless it breaks this trend line. If it breaks that trend line, this is the area we were looking for, right on here, where that congestion is. So you'd probably see some buyers step in around here, that 99 to 97/60th. So keep an eye on that area if we do break that line, but I would be leaning to a reversal, just considering that this is kind of a wedge formation as well as those divergences. Apple here. So Apple, we got a tiny correction. We bounced off of that previous high area as well as this fib line, which um, no one's really looking at this. I haven't seen anyone put this up, but I would put this fib channel up. It's incredibly intact. It's so well respected here. If you know how to draw that, this is, you can see, just kind of take a look for yourself. I'll go into the 2 hour and just, you can kind of pause the video or whatever, so you can really see how relevant these lines are. Bounces, rejection right at the top of that channel. So right now we're sitting at this line right here, the 50%. So this is a pretty tough area to break through, the halfway, like that halfway mark of this entire channel. So it's probably going to have some trouble around here, as well as we just filled that gap. We had 5 waves up. We're also starting to form divergences on the lower time frames. Yeah, also on the higher time frames as well. So the 2 hour, you can it's starting to form those divergences. So we can look at the 1 hour divergences. Yeah, it's staying strong here, but these are divergences. So you would want to look for that kind of topping process. We broke out, so that's kind of a big that's a pretty big event for Apple, because it's been stuck inside of this since technically August, but I would really say since August, just continually getting rejected, and it's finally broken out. So it could keep going. That it's been consolidating for a while, so I can definitely see more upside, but it might need to breathe. It might not though. Tricky to say. There's a bunch of resistances here. You got divergences, but this is a big breakout, so it's kind of that middle ground where you're kind of questioning, does it need a pullback, or is it gonna get a pullback? So Tesla, those 160s, we've been talking about this for a while. We were talking about that 101 area, very, very, very likely to bottom, because if it didn't, it was going all the way down to 66, and that was just too far. It didn't make sense. And I said, if we bounce here, we're probably going to return back to this supply zone, which we are at. And then if we manage to get through this, we can see the 160s. And this is where it gets really interesting, because if you breach this area, you can see right here, you got a tiny little volume node. That actually might be from today. So actually, we're going to take a look at that. We're going to take a look at the price action right before today. And we'll see kind of how that affects it. So, yeah, I guess it was still kind of intact here. Yeah. So, interesting. Definitely sellers are coming in right at the bottom of this volume gap. But if you get through this, you're gonna start to see some major sellers come in from 220 to 180. So, yeah, I don't really think we're going to get up to 200s, but I'm just saying, if we manage to, consolidate in the zone and push up, you're going to see some major selling pressure come into here. And it should not be able to get through that. I would definitely see a rejection, probably test 140 again. But it's a process. We don't really need to look that far ahead yet. Just kind of something to kind of be aware of. We're in this volume gap, so there's not a lot of selling pressure. Just most traders are going to be waiting for that next region where there's going to be volume, which is 184. So it's got some upside, but you also have a small one here, so you can actually still get rejected here, and you also do have some sort of a resistance here. So it's a tough area here. We could definitely see a rejection. It's kind of overextended as well. So I'm probably looking for a pullback on Tesla now, which I have not said at all during this run really until now. So I would be looking for some sort of exhaustion soon. We'll see. Amazon. So interesting spot. I was talking about this, how this volume node is kind of set up, and it's in the shape of a bell curve. So when you have it in the shape of a bell curve, what happens is you see traders take positions in the middle of it, and then they distribute it at the ends of that bell-shaped curve. So they short here, they close the shorts down here, People go long here, they close the longs up here. And once you break out of that volume node is when you really see one side really pick up traction and kind of take over. So you could see some more sideways trading, and this is something that's maybe possible in inverse head and shoulders. So you come all the way back down here, all the way down into this region to get that shoulder, and then pop up. I've been looking for 105, 110 to 105 for quite a while. Ever since we were down here, I said we're gonna break out. We're probably gonna fill this gap soon, or not soon, just in time once we break out. So that's really that area I'm looking for. In yesterday's video, I also said 99 is a big level to break, and we're testing that right now. Looking at that double top maybe. We got that bear flag. That was something I also talked about in yesterday's video. Or bull flag, bull flag. And it looks like he kind of broke out. So this is a messy flag, but it still has that kind of like descending channel structure, which is what a bull flag is. And I think it's broken out. It's kind of hard to tell, but that's what it looks like to me so far. We'll see how it does tomorrow, if it continues or not. But yeah, I think it's up to the bulls tomorrow to see if they can really push through that 99 level. Biotech, still kind of waiting on that move here. We're not breaching this upper, the mid 8 regions. So if you breach that, you could go flying up to the 10 to fill that gap. You also have a gap down here, and then the main ETF, I believe, yeah. So it did fill that gap. It's a tough area. I kind of think it's unlikely for this to continue higher, and that's why I would be leaning to this breaking through the supports and falling down. So once Lab U breaks this, Lab D would go up. That's the inverse ETF. And I could see some decent upside on this, especially if you break that channel line. So this actually may be closer to breaking out than I thought. So it would make sense to at least test the bottom of this region that used to be support. So 14 to like 25%. So that's what I'd be looking for if Lab U finally starts breaking down under that support line. That's the line to watch. Semiconductors, kind of the same setup here. You were almost at this gap. We've been watching this gap for literally months, and we're almost here. So maybe it would make sense for this to just make that one last final push and get to that gap and fill it. And this is also a wave 4 on the macro scale. So sorry about that. My dog was scratching at the door. So what I was saying was this is a macro wave 4. Now wave 4s are always a pivot point. So if you breach this wave 4, this thing could go flying. But it's really I seriously doubt that we can just that won't happen. That's just not how it works. That's not how the market works. Nothing goes up forever. Nothing goes down forever. And something I just saw from kind of a glance, a big resistance that we might be at right now. Give me a sec to put this down. Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of incentive to stop around that gap fill. So if we get that gap fill, I would probably be looking for a pretty decent reversal. Yeah, you got divergences forming as well. So once we fill this gap, I'm not sure if we're going to get that gap fill before anything else happens. But if that happens, I would really be keeping an eye on SOXS. So that's the bears, leverage bear ETF of this ETF. So when this moves 1%, this moves 3%. So just to kind of put into perspective, let's say we fill that gap and we get a pullback. This gap will get filled. I'm almost sure of that. That's a pretty decent gap. You also have one down here. So let's just say we fill this gap, 7 times 3. Do the math. That's 7.7 times 3. That's a little over 21%. That's a nice move. If you fill that, that's like 36%. So you can really see some major moves on those leveraged ETFs. This is almost 20%, which would be 60% on that leveraged ETF. So keep your eye on this thing. The moves are extraordinary. If you can learn how to trade these well, you can make a lot of money. Onto the VIX here. Not really too much to say. We're watching the support line, see if it holds, as well as that gap. It makes sense to fill this gap before anything else. It looks like we have this descending resistance, which previously was kind of that triangle line, which we said nothing matters until we get past that apex. And right after the apex, we shot up, but we couldn't break this line. And when you see these fake breakdowns, what you really want to see, if you want to go the other way, and this move is a fake out, you want to see it happen through the apex, and not like after the apex. You want to see it happen like right through the apex, right before, right around it. So it didn't do that. It did it a little late, and I would really be watching that gap to get finished filling. So on to SPY. Yesterday, this is that drawing I had up. I had this 5-wave structure that we were in, and we finished that 5-wave structure. After 5 waves, you get 3 waves down. That's your correction right here. So I was sleeping, but I slept in a little, and I also went out to breakfast with the family. So I wasn't trading this, but I totally would have shorted this. Kind of unfortunate that I was out this morning because it was so obvious and so clear. But oh well, with plenty more opportunities in the future. And we had this wedge going into the end of the day, which going into after hours sort of played out. Usually wedges will retrace a little more than this. And for yourself to use this to your own advantage, wedges like to retrace to anywhere from the 0.382 to the golden pocket. Under that, it's usually more likely that it's just going to continue down. But in this case, I would be looking for a little more of a retrace, but it's holding pretty well. We'll see. Wedges that extend into after hours don't always play out normally, so I would much rather see this during intraday and then see it break down, or a wedge that consists of price action during several days. But this is it's a little awkward. It had a retrace. It might be done. It might not be. But regardless, there's a couple things here. So I've been saying for the past couple days that I think this thing is going to explode here, squeeze some shorts, but it's a race against time, because psychoanalysis, if for those of you who know what Hurst theory is, it's going into a major period of weakness, major weakness. So that, if that bearish momentum and all of that negative energy comes in and takes over, it's going to go straight to 300 pretty much. Now, there's a lot of scenarios here on the macro, from a macro standpoint. It can go to the all-time highs, like I said yesterday, but it's not the scenario I'm favoring. It's pretty unlikely, but it's possible. And I would also like to see it stop from 410 to 440. Now, that's a massive range, I know, but it can stop anywhere from there. So you really kind of have to be on your toes and just kind of ready to adjust to whatever. So the reason I'm getting the way I'm getting my top target is fib extension, because I believe this whole process or structure is corrective. The C wave likes to be equal to A. That's that gives you 436. So after 436, theoretically you'd be going straight to 300 from there. Now, it has to happen fast because we're going into this period of weakness. When you go into a period of weakness, it's extraordinarily difficult to fight that momentum and energy from those cycles. So that's why I think it's a race against time for the bulls, where they have to do this move really soon, like the next 2 weeks sort of thing. And I think it's possible, but it really has to do it now. And they're kind of in the process of doing it. We've had some really nice moves the past few days, as you can see. Straight up, straight up, straight up. Today was kind of straight up as well, after that correction at least. But regardless, it's a tricky spot because we can really pull back from around here if we don't breach this top. We're going to zoom in. Give me a second here. So, going back into the smaller time frames, what we need to do is break that low, or the high that we made, I believe it was yesterday. So we did that, but we are in this wedge structure. So I was saying this in the Discord, wedges like to do these fake outs where they break out and then they ultimately retrace. So like this, this was really what I was expecting. Above anything else, I would that it would make a new high above the previous high, which I guess it was this high. So yeah, this high. So breach this high and then retrace, trap a lot. Like I guarantee you, this trapped so many people. You break this high, everyone started going long, closing those shorts, only for it to come right back down. So that's something you just really need to kind of be aware of that happens. Nothing goes up forever, nothing goes down forever. That's not how the market works. And if you can understand the simple structure of a set of waves, 5 waves up, 3 waves down, if you can kind of get the knack or the ability to just see like 5 waves, like after a while you can just kind of see that there's 5 waves. Like I'm going to take this off and you can just kind of see from a glance 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you know, from you see an extreme run and a decent pullback, extreme run, decent pullback. Those are waves. This is a wave here. So if you see 5 waves up, it's going to correct soon. That's how it works. So now what should be happening is we should be going higher, but right now we probably need to consolidate. So this is where I'm going to go on to futures, just because it's a little cluttered on that one. We broke through the congestion zone. This is what I said in yesterday's video. I said we need to get through this congestion zone, and if we do that, it's off to the skies. That's what I said. You can go back and take a look at that. That's what happened. So it gets interesting here. You're at big resistance. You also I don't know if this line was in my video, but we bounced off of this line pretty well. That was resistance, and just been going up since. Now we're at this resistance. So this is going to be a tough one. I honestly don't think this can break. So this is kind of conflicting with what I think. So it's a really tricky spot because you have divergences here. Yeah, you have divergences, pretty nasty ones too. As you can see, price action making these higher highs while the MACD and the RSI is making lower highs. So it's a really awkward spot here. But tomorrow PCE numbers, if it wants to go bullish, I think PCE number is a great way to do it. Just send this flying, send it to the skies. But if not, there's a chance this could be a wedge. And that would ultimately result, I would expect some bounce off of this. One more bounce up and then you fall down. So that would be really interesting. But we need to see what happens round 2. I don't know if it's a wedge yet, but I don't think it's that unlikely for it to be a wedge. So I want to bring this line down a little just because I think this is probably where we would find our bounce from. If this is a wedge, I would look for a bounce somewhere in that area. That just makes sense to me. It looks right too. But from there, you get a bounce and then go lower. So a very interesting spot. You had big resistance, but you're also kind of above level, which that was today's previous high. But we need to stay above it tomorrow in order for it to really prove itself. And the PCE numbers is a great way for the bulls to really just decimate shorts right now. So we'll see what I want to do tomorrow morning. There's not really too much else I can say besides that, because big resistance, you have bearish divergences, but it's also ready and it's also set up to just rocket to the moon. So we're going to see what PCE numbers do tomorrow morning. Let's give us a good picture, and that's where I'm going to leave this video. So if you watched the whole thing through, make sure to show it some love, give it a like and subscribe. And as a side note, I'm going back to school on Saturday, so I'm going to be going back to those Sunday videos. I'm loaded on classes more than I was last semester, so I'm probably going to be spending more time on school this semester, so we'll see how it goes. We're just going to have to adjust however is needed. So yeah, we'll see how the market is tomorrow, and peace out, guys.